Alright everyone, welcome to a new video, and today I got a little, Christmas-ish kind of present for you, I guess. I don't know. Some builds. Yay, because we don't have enough of those. Yeah. Probably gonna quote-unquote battle all the YouTubers. They also probably have builds, but who cares? Mine came first. Probably not. So, the reason I made this build is because Christmas is around the corner, and Black Friday just is over, so no special deals or anything. And the reason I don't want special deals is because it just skewers the entire thing way too much. So yay for that. Now I want to clarify a couple things first. Number one, all builds have Ryzen, and I know a lot of Intel fanboys will be really mad about this, but the reality is, at this point, there's no real reason to go for Intel, especially from a future-proof perspective, because every one of these builds can easily be upgraded to 5000 series, which currently do just better, just flat out better than Intel in every single way, in performance, in power consumption, in gaming, in productivity. It's just, yeah. It's really hard to recommend Intel at this point, especially because you don't really know if another generation will be on the same socket as previous generation. Knowing Intel, they'll probably have another socket again, so you cannot just, upgrade. You have to buy a new motherboard, and you have to buy a new CPU, build it into your PC again, all this crap. Well, here you can just, update the BIOS, plop out the CPU, put the new CPU in, you're done. So this is why you won't see any Intel. It's not because I have some bias towards AMD. It's just because AMD is currently objectively superior in any way. So this is really hard to make a case for why you should buy Intel, especially because price-wise they're still pretty high for some unknown reason. Whatever. Now let's start with the first build, the $500 build. Now, honestly, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. If you have $500 and you want a lot for your money, you buy used. You get so much more for your money when you buy used. However, I do understand a couple people have tight budgets and they don't want to go to the used market because they're scared, or maybe the used market in wherever you live is just that bad, or some parents want to buy you a present and obviously they won't buy used, so ta-da, there you go. So, I'm going to talk about the power supply and case first, because I really feel, and this is going to go for every single build, it's objective, whatever you find best right now. I mean, most power supplies are basically active PFC. I mean, finding something that's passive PFC, or just power supply is generally just bad, is kind of hard. So there's that. When it comes to case as well, I found that the Fractal Design Focus G is more, best bang for the buck. I also kind of like the design. Obviously, it has some issues here and there. I mean, the cable management being one of them. I mean, not a whole lot of space, all this thing. But given for what it's priced at, I think it's still a good purchase. Now, you can obviously change for whatever other case you want. That's totally up to you. Just make sure that the airflow of those cases are good and they don't have any major issues that would impact anything, which you would want to use it for. Maybe you want to buy, want to do some CPU overclocking down the line, and you don't want a case that's too thin, so you can't put big coolers on it. All these kind of things you have to look for. Also, we got storage-wise a 1TB hard drive and a 240GB SSD. Now, you want your operating system on the SSD, so with your programs as well, and then maybe your main games, depending on what you're playing. If your main game is GTA 5, you certainly do not want that on your SSD, but I'm just saying, if you play, let's say, Valorant or CSGO for the most part, but also want some other casual games, then you obviously want to put games like Valorant or CSGO on the SSD. While you want to put the other games that don't mind when the loading time is a little longer, you put them on the hard drive. I picked a 3200 RPM one because I really feel it makes a difference versus a 5400 RPM in my personal experience. That's always the case. So yeah, even big games like GTA 5 load pretty acceptable. I mean, you don't wait longer than maybe 30 seconds, which is completely acceptable in my book. The G.Skill Aegis DDR4 3000 CL16 RAM, it's okay. It's not really CL6. I mean, yes, the cast licensee is, I guess it's 16, but okay, this is something I really want to point out here because they're a little deceptive when it comes to that. It's not really a typical CL16 timing. It's not like 16, 16, 16, whatever the other number is. It's 16, 18, 18, 18. So it's actually slower than actual BDI CL16 memory kit. This is actually a Hynix kit. I just want to point that out in case you are already like all hippity, like, oh no, this is BDI awesome. It's not. So yeah, just saying. Now the motherboard, I chose a very solid one. I found this to be, in terms of price to performance, or for what you get for your money, I honestly am a little surprised by how decent this board is. It has really good VRMs. It can even handle overclocking on 8-core CPU. Obviously, you won't be doing LN2 hopefully on a motherboard like this. But if you want to do like just casual overclocking on an 8-core, you could totally do it with this motherboard. It's kind of close to the Tomahawk. It's obviously not as good, but if you compare prices, this is way cheaper than the Tomahawk. And given how close it is on pure VRM performance, I think this is a good buy. And the last one is the Ryzen 5 3400G with an internal APU, aka internal graphics card, whatever you want to look at it. Now, personally, when you buy this build, you want to maybe experiment as to how much you can play around with the RAM, with the Infinity Fabric, you know, just find the settings you can find there. You kind of want the RAM to run at 3600 megahertz instead of 3000. You could totally do that. There's no reason to spend extra money on 3600 RAM because even G.Skill's RAM kit, they're basically the same. I would actually not be shocked if you could just flat out clock this RAM to 3600 megahertz and with the same timings. I would not be shocked in the slightest. But you want your RAM to preferably run 1-to-1 to the Infinity Fabric of the CPU. 3rd gen Ryzen typically reaches around, it tops out at 1900, but in my experience, not a whole lot of CPUs actually get to that Infinity Fabric speed. 1900 is kind of rare. You'll mostly see 1866 or 1800. So there's that. So you want your RAM to either clock at 3600 or 3766. Was that? Yeah. Yeah, so the Infinity Fabric is actually 1800. 1860. No, wait, what am I saying? God damn it, Infinity Fabric. You just Google that shit or come to my Discord and ask me about it. I'm gonna explain you there. This is a build video. I'm tired. No, already getting a disastrous video. God damn it. Got this. Okay. The next one will be a $750 build and the exact same as previous build. Power supply case, all up to taste. You can change those with you get a better deal somewhere. Just make sure that the power supply is active, PFC, AT loss certified in some way, not some cheap ass passive PFC, scary nuke in power supply form. Don't get something like that. In terms of case, just make sure you have the perfect airflow, or not perfect, but just the airflow you want. I will repeat this a lot because I will have in my comment section timelines where you can click on it, so people won't necessarily look at this part, just another part. So sorry about that for those who just watch from start to ending. Man, opted for exactly the same as the $500 build, 240 gigabytes SSD for your main game, or maybe 2 main games, depending if they're small enough. And then obviously all your applications and the operating system, and 1 terabyte for your bigger games, which you don't mind loading a little longer. The GTX 1660 Super is pretty much bang for the buck you can get in this price range. It kind of is cheaper than the AMD counterpart, which surprised the hell out of me. But your mileage may vary a lot, I guess. If you can have a 5600 XT cheaper, then you go for that. But according to PC Part Picker, this one was a little cheaper. So yeah. In terms of gaming, it doesn't really matter that much. So there's that. Now G.Skill memory, the same as before. It's a decent kit. Another again, it's a CL16, very deceptive G.Skill, very deceptive. ASRoG as again solid, great. And as you can see here, you don't have a Zen 2 processor. You have a 2600 Zen, basically a Zen 2. Wait, no, a Zen Plus. Is that what they call it? Zen Plus. You know, the 2700X, which is an 8-core variant. It's cheaper than the 6-core Zen 2, actually. While the IPC of this particular 8-core is a little worse, it still makes it up in a lot of games with those 2 extra cores. You will actually see a lot of games where if they use 8 cores, they will perform roughly on par with the 6-core third gen, with the 6-core second gen from Ryzen, which is, I mean, Zen 2 does have better IPC and will run better in games like CSGO, but I don't think it's a good trade-off for a, you know, overall gamer build, because a lot of games start to utilize more cores. And you also, when you go for 6-core versus an 8-core, is you're kind of also losing those 2 extra cores in productivity. I mean, a lot of gamers also like to, you know, record their videos, or just, you know, render something, or just do anything else. And those 2 extra cores come in handy real quick. So this is why I would definitely go for, in this price range, for the 2600X. Simply because it gives you more versatility, and you won't really notice a huge difference anyways, because you will mostly be limited by the graphics card. So even if you upgrade the graphics card later on, you will totally not have any issues running with the 2700 at all. So I'm just saying. Now the esport build, and this one I have to give some context because a lot of people will have question marks when they see the graphics card. Now, when I say esport build, I mean literally people who will play CSGO at 4:3 aspect ratio and literally, you know, put everything on low, have eye cancerous picture just to have the maximized FPS, you know, advantage, whatever. This is the build which people would probably go for, because they don't really care about graphic fidelity. And if you are one of those guys who think they're competitive, but they, you know, play CSGO in high settings, trust me, you do not know what competitive CSGO players actually do. So again, this is not meant for just, you know, your normal, I want to play whatever game. It's like, I only play CSGO, I only play Overwatch, I put everything on low, I don't give a fuck. It has to run highest FPS, I want it. This is the build to go. 8-core, Zen 2, decent motherboard, can even sustain overclock, although I would say this is only slight overclock you should do given the cooling on the on this build. You could buy a bigger cooler, but you would have to buy a cooler that's out of this price range. This is why it's not in here. And it's kind of debatable how much it'll give you anyways, so I'm just saying there. Now, G.Skill ripped jaws. Now people will have, those who don't really know, will have a question mark too. Be like, okay, but 3000 megahertz on Zen 2, isn't that bad? And the answer is, well, yes, if you run them at 3000. The thing is, these are Samsung B die, and you essentially get the same RAM in 4000 megahertz RAM kit. You basically have the exact same as this one, the 3000 one, just differently configured. Like, the only difference is literally they have another profile running them higher clock speeds. So this is what you have to do. You buy the 3000 CL14 memories, you overclock them manually yourself, and there you go, profit. It's that simple. You I don't know how much, I mean, you probably save $50 or something like that. There's no real point in buying 4000 megahertz RAM because they're all just, you know, these overclocked. I mean, come on. You can do that with Typhoon Tuner. I think that's Typhoon Burner. I don't know what the hell it's called, that program anymore. But you can totally do it with that if you wanted to, you know, not even bother with BIOS at this point. I'm just saying. Now, here I also put a 500 gigabyte M2 really fast. Okay, really fast. I mean, it's arguably not that fast. There are definitely fast drives there, but it's still really fast. And only 500 gigs without more storage is enough for basically anyone who just plays Overwatch or CSGO, whatever. The RX 5500 XT will easily able to be will not be a bottleneck in basically any of the games you have. I mean, Rocket League, Overwatch. I mean, I have to stress this out a lot because a lot of people might just be like, "Oh, competitive is when I play Counter-Strike." No, that's not fucking competitive. Again, case and power supply. Yeah. I mean, the same as before. It's preference. You could totally switch them out for something else. It just happened to be cheap, good price to performance. Again, all whatever you want. And eSport 1K build. Now here we have a 3800 XT, and not a lot, but some people will ask why the XT and not the just X. And the reason for this is, when looking at overclocking, it seems that the 3800 XTs are just generally better binned. They seem to overclock higher across the board. I haven't really found an XT processor so far online that does not clock well. I've seen these things clock to 4.6, 4.7 gigahertz just like that, and I mean, that's more than what you could ever ask for. Obviously, cooling here is Scythe Ninja 5. I have it myself. It cools pretty well. The fans are super quiet. Definitely recommended because this build is actually made for overclocking, honestly. ASRock B550 Steel Legend ATX. Now, this motherboard is a goddamn beast. For B550 at least. I mean, it's pretty much... It could easily handle the Ryzen 5950. It could no problem handle that. I mean, VRMs will get hot, but it's not nowhere near critical. So you could totally run a 16 core on this, even though you probably wouldn't as an esport gamer. Later on, you would probably upgrade to 5800 because that one also gives a huge boost in performance there. But the reason I don't have 5000 series here is because, well, good luck getting one. So there's that. And the same with the rib jaws as on the 750 build. B-die, beautifully overclockable. So you should definitely overclock to the Infinity Fabric there as well. Make your research onto how to do that. And find the limit of your Infinity Fabric, obviously, as well. 1 terabyte M.2 is probably a little overkill for those who just play CSGO, but you never know. Maybe you want to, record one match or two, but there you go. The same graphics card as before. I don't feel like upgrading graphics card at all in these builds because, again, graphics card is usually never the bottleneck. If you play Overwatch 1080p, everything low, this particular graphics card will run at like, I think 50% usage. That's it. There's no need to get another graphics card. You want just display to display something, and you don't want the graphics card not to be a bottleneck. Easy, end of story. That's how easy it is. The power supply upgrade a little bit, again with the same case. As for the other builds, you just swap them out if you have better deals or like another case or whatever. Just make sure airflow is goody. Now there's gonna be more for the normal crowd here, not the huge esport lovers. It's very similar to the $750 build, but just with instead of a slightly, or not slightly, but more beefed up power supply, a much better graphics card. This will easily be able to fulfill everyone's 1440p needs. And you have 1 terabyte M.2. It's not a fast one by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll be noticeably faster than hard drive, and it's pretty decent for the money. I have one of those in one of my laptops. Do emulation on it. Play some bigger games on it too. Loads perfectly fine. So there's that. RAM, motherboard, and the Ryzen, same reason as on the 750 build. I just feel it's better this way to have, more cores, productivity, more versatility, rather than just specific 6-core, slightly better IPC in some games. I don't feel that getting 6-core with a little better IPC is worth it. Unless we talk 5000 series, then totally it's worth it, because in terms of IPC improvement compared to the Zen Plus, that is large. So upgrading to 5000 series, yeah, it also depends on what resolution you play. Obviously, if you play 4K, then yeah, you won't ever be able to. You won't ever want to upgrade the CPU at all. At 4K, it doesn't matter. So there's that. I just saw. Oh my god! I just realized my this build has gotten more expensive for some reason. What the fuck just happened? I think the graphics card just got more expensive for no reason. Yeah, okay. When it comes to graphics card, you have to look what you can find. This was when I made the build. It was definitely slightly below 1,000. Now it's 1,100. I assume it's a graphics card because yeah, this is way higher than it was before. Yeah. Okay. Basically, when it comes to, you want to keep everything as it is right here. You just want to swap out the graphics card, something more in line of what is right now in your budget. It's either going to be an RX 5700 XT or an RTX 2070 Super. Depending on region, you might also want, you might only, quote unquote, only be able to get an RTX 2060 Super, but I mean, that's also fine. This is so frustrating when you make a build and suddenly it's like, oh, price changed. God damn it. And the 1,000 bucks, the price also changed here. What the fuck? Whatever. It's still gonna be along the lines with, yeah, stuff. So let me explain this. Now, the content creator build is basically for those who want to just, you know, create content. That's basically it on YouTube, or, you know, want to play a little bit as well. So this build basically has a lot of RAM. Now, the reason you have 32 gigs of RAM and not, you know, 16 is because when you do content creation, especially video editing on 4K resolution with a lot of effects and stuff like that, you will notice that it eats RAM really quickly. You will easily be able to exceed those 16 gigs of RAM, especially also when you start doing some, you know, images or GIFs or whatever for your video too. Or even if you just do pure photo editing and you want to have, like, you have a 50 megapixel high res huge depth camera of Doom, then also you will easily be able to eat those 16 gigs as a snack. So yeah, I would definitely not go under 32 gigs of RAM as a content creator. So there's that. 4 terabytes of internal hard drive. Yeah, a lot of content creator probably have external hard drives too, because they have to, you know, move from one device to another. I might also argue that 4 terabyte is probably not that much, considering when I record my stuff alone, just gameplay, how much that already takes. A content creator will probably have even higher quality footage and will use even more storage. So you probably want to, when you have a little bit more money, you want to upgrade the storage even further. But I believe this should still be okay for most casual ones. The reason why I went for an H210 specifically, the NZXT, I personally like the cases as such. I think they're, in terms of build quality, I think they're really nice. I have a 210 version here, an ITX version. But I do think that the Thunderbolt port on top is just so valuable for content creators as well. So I would definitely not want them to not have a Thunderbolt port. And given the price of the ATX of the NZXT case, I don't think that anyone's going to be complaining about it. Now, here's also the reason. There's also a specific reason why I got the GTX 1616 Super. Even those who don't play games, is because what I found out, when it comes to generally applications in productivity or just image editing or whatever, they really like to use CUDA cores, and I get it. It's much faster than CPU. So yeah, I would not. This is actually the only build where I'm like, okay, if you have to change the graphics card because it's too expensive in your region, stick with NVIDIA, because, well, I personally like AMD more for gaming, especially because they age way better. NVIDIA really does a better job for content creation, as those CUDA cores are being used everywhere. And they're really, it's just efficient, it's fast, it's great. And I really think that that is going to be one of the big things for a content creator. Now, you can also play games on this PC easily. It won't do any, ultra 1440p by any stretch of the imagination, but you could totally do medium settings, 1440p, maybe high 1080p. It should easily be able to handle that. And as you can see here, I also got an ASRock B550 Steel Legend, and this motherboard is a beast. You could yoink a 16-core 5000 series CPU on it, and it would be able to handle it no problem. So for those who later want to upgrade their PC down the line, this is what you do. You just upgrade to the 16 core to have more performance. But so far I think the 8 core is a great sweet spot, because as far as I can tell from most applications, once you hit the 8 or 10 core count, the performance to core ratio, it kind of falls off a little. You don't get as much for the money anymore. So this is just what I have seen with a lot of things. All right. So this is a mild failure considering the prices changed on some of them. God damn it. PC price picker. Oh, PC part picker. How dare you? All right. So this is my list for you. I hope you may have learned something. If you have questioned anything else, you can join my Discord. If you want to flame me, you have always the description down below. You can always, dislike and start some kind of flame war. Beauty of the internet. Alright. I guess I'll see you on next one. Bye-bye.